Tuesday evening. Before we sort of get started, I am going to wait for a few more people to stream in before I take my first poll question live. For all those of you who have just streamed in, we have a wonderful session for you here today from the George Washington University School of Business, which I am going to be speaking about in a little bit more. I see there are people who've logged in from Bangkok as well, Goa, Gujarat, the length and breadth of India, and all of you who have come, who've joined in from outside of India as well. Thank you so much. You can be rest assured you have a treat coming up to you for you today in this session. Okay, so while the others are streaming in, I am very quickly going to take, before we get started, I am going to run my first poll question for today, which we have prepared for you. And you can see it on the top of your screen. For all those who've logged in, if you can let us know about which stage you are at in your study abroad journey. Are you someone who is still looking for options, trying to understand what are the different programs, what are the different offerings by universities, or are you someone who's already moved a little bit ahead in the stage and have already sort of started shortlisting your universities or bucketing it into your dream reach and safety colleges? Are you already looking at specific programs which you are going to be applying for? And for all of those who've already started accepting offers, for those who've moved to the visa application process. So if all of you who have joined into the session so far, if you could just click on one of the choices and let us know as to what stage of your study abroad journey are you at right now, that would be fun to know what is the kind of crowd that we are going to be speaking to today. We will be starting shortly in a bit. For those who are still streaming in, please have a look at the poll question, which is on your screens, and let us know at which stage of your study abroad journey are you at right now. So I am going to be waiting for a few more students to start answering the poll questions before I sort of take the answers live for you. Right. I will be talking about the session as well, what the session is about. But let us first start with the polls and see where y'all are at in your study abroad journey. Great. So we have the poll results, which are in with us. So around 74% of you are still understanding your options, which is, of course, a good place to be in. Today's session might help a lot of you answer quite a few questions which you all have in your mind. Most of you have also started shortlisting universities. Some are looking at applying for programs, accepting offers and visa applications. So thank you so much, all of you who have joined us in today and have answered the poll. So very quickly, I'm going to move forward to talking about the session. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Sabahat Herzog, and I'm a senior marketing manager with Seed Global Education. We're a UK headquartered company which facilitates interactions between top global universities like the one we have today and prospective students such as yourself, giving you a chance to connect with different faculties of these institutions, giving you a taste of the various programs which are being offered by these institutions, and helping you then sort of make informed decisions about your higher education or your career plans. On the panel with me today, I have Professor Bazinki, who is an assistant professor of accountancy at the George Washington University School of Business. Thank you so much for joining us today. He has been an accounting instructor since 2016. And prior to working with GWSB, he has held various corporate positions for the past 25 years. He is a CPA, and his research interests include reviews of accounting standards, the reputation repair actions for firms that pursue in the aftermath of unfavorable events which take place in company, and auditing case studies. We also have with us today Megan, who is the Associate Director of Graduate Admissions at GWSB. Thank you so much, Megan, for joining us today for this particular session as well.
Thank you.
And very interestingly, the topic for today's masterclass is the impact of data analysis in the accounting profession. So without further ado, I am going to firstly hand over the stage, so to speak, to Professor Bazinki to take us to his presentation, post which Megan will be speaking about the various programs and offerings that GWSB has for all of you who have joined in today. So over to you, Professor.
All right. Thank you, Sabahat. Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning to everyone. As Sabahat said, my name is Professor Bazinkai, and I'm in the Department of Accountancy. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit today about data analytics and how it's affecting the accounting profession, but not only accounting profession, other professions as well. So I hope you find this informative. So just what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about 3 topics. One, a little bit of context about how has data analytics become such a hot topic, a little bit about its application. And when we teach data analytics, we encourage that we follow a process. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about the AMPS process. It varies a little bit in terms of it can be different acronyms, but the overall concepts are the same. And just to share some credit, some of the materials that I'll be using today come from these textbooks that I use in my classes. One is an accounting information systems class, and one is a data analytics for accounting class. Okay. So context on how data analytics has become such a hot topic. One is there's been an exponential growth of data in recent years. If we look at the amount of structured data, which is data in tabular form, and unstructured data, and you can think of that as data maybe more in like what you'd see on social media or in movies or something like that, you can see that there's been a dramatic growth in the amount of data that's available for people to analyze. So there's more data now by far and away that there's ever been in the history of mankind. 2, data storage costs used to be incredibly expensive. In 1980, it cost $700,000 to store 1 gigabyte of data. Now, by 2009, that number had come down to 7 cents. But if we flash forward to more recent times, a terabyte of storage is now less than a penny. So data storage costs used to be expensive, and now they're very inexpensive. Third, there are many tools to make data analytics more user-friendly. We're not going to go through, obviously, all the tools on this screen, but you can see there are business intelligence tools, data virtualization tools, analytics tools, and there are many, many tools out there. And what's nice about them is they're point and click. So years ago, you had to have more of a computer science background to be able to do strong data analytics. Now, you really don't need to have that because tools have made this very user-friendly. So just to kind of recap, we've had exponential data growth. Data storage is now inexpensive, and there are user-friendly analysis tools that don't require a high level of technical expertise. These 3 things, in my opinion, have created what's called the data analytics opportunity. And so now companies and firms around the world are trying to and have capitalized on this opportunity. And we're looking at it from accounting because I'm an accounting professor, but it's a hot topic in numerous fields. It doesn't matter if it's business, if it's medicine, or if it's science or political science. Even if you're in liberal arts areas, data analytics has applications. So it's incredibly exciting, but there are challenges, especially as it's newer. One is the data that you want may not be available, or it may be difficult to obtain. And if it is available, it may not be available for all periods being analyzed. As we saw, there's been a tremendous growth in data. So if you're trying to do maybe a 20-year study, you may not be able to do that because the data simply didn't exist a long time ago. Another challenge is that data sets in the real world are often messy. We call it dirty data, and that needs to be scrubbed. And so there's a process to clean our data. And then there are, of course, privacy and security issues. We have to be careful not to release personally identifying information about people, and we have to protect companies' data by not having security breaches. So before we get into this too much, let's talk a little bit about what do we mean by data analytics. So data analytics is defined as the science of examining raw data, removing excess noise, and organizing that data with the purpose of drawing conclusions for decision-making. And the idea here is we can make higher quality decisions if we can use more data to inform us on a better decision. This is my own perspective, but I think data analytics is both an art and a science. It's obviously a science because where there's statistical applications and methodologies that are to be followed. But it's also an art in that good data analytics requires creativity. You have to think of what's the right question to ask. It requires judgment in terms of how data should be scrubbed or how results should be analyzed. And it requires resourcefulness in terms of how can I get better data? So it's both, again, both an art and a science, in my opinion. Now, here at the George Washington School of Business, we have a department of decision sciences. And if you're interested in this topic, you can go very deep on data analytics. But data analytics has become so widespread in its application that even if you want to pursue a different discipline like accounting, marketing, finance, or maybe outside of business, different scientific fields, et cetera, data analytics is relevant. So it's relevant to all subject matter. So if you're saying, boy, I kind of like data analytics, but I'm not sure if I want to be an accountant, don't worry. Data analytics is applicable. So a little bit on accounting, because I'm an accounting professor. So if we just take a step back and we say, why do we have accounting? Accounting is a service-oriented profession that focuses on providing relevant, reliable, and timely information for an array of stockholders. It could be our shareholders, it could be bankers, it could be our customers who want to partner with us, or our suppliers who want to do business with us, so that they can make well-informed decisions. Increasingly, data analytics provides accountants with opportunities to use higher quality data to execute their mission. So if this is our mission up top, how can we get higher quality service or deliver higher quality service by using higher quality data? And in our accounting courses, we're now exploring how can we use data analytics to provide better information than what traditional methods pre-data analytics have done. And when we talk about this, I don't want to, most of the time I'll be taking this from the perspective of a firm, but it could be from an audit firm, it could be from the perspective of a financial analyst, or it could be the government. In our country, the Internal Revenue Service is a part of the government that focuses on making sure people are complying with tax laws and regulations. The IRS uses data analytics heavily to better understand how they can do their mission better. All right, so before we move on, let's talk a little bit about, and we'll spend the rest of the talk on this, the data analytics process. And here I'm sharing a 4-step process, but it doesn't have, sometimes you may see it in 4, sometimes you may see it in 5 steps. These are the 4 most important though. And we're gonna go into these individually. The first thing you have to do is you have to think of a question that you want to answer. Second, you want to master the data that can address that question. And then once you have your data, you want to perform the analysis. And then after you perform the analysis, you want to share the story. In other words, what did you discover? And then it's an iterative process that may yield to new questions. So when I say AMPS, The acronym is coming from A, ask the question, M, master the data, M, master the data, P, perform the analysis, and S, share the story. Okay. So when we talk about ask the question, what we're saying is your data won't speak unless you ask it the right questions. This is the most important part of the process, because if you don't ask the right question, you're not going to get the right answer. It's not possible. So what's important here is that we utilize critical thinking. And what I have down listed below are literally definitions of critical thinking that you can get from Wikipedia. Okay, just simple things, and some of them are pretty good. So when we talk about critical thinking, what do we mean? We mean the process of actively and skillfully conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, synthesizing, and evaluating information to reach an answer. So very disciplined thinking. Let's skip. We'll just do the next third one. Purposeful, self-regulatory judgment, which results in interpretation, analysis, evaluation, and inference, as well as explanation of the evidential, conceptual, methodological, ideological, or contextual considerations upon which judgment is based. So we're trying to make sure we have a disciplined process to get to the right questions, as well as to get to the right answers. So once we've formalized our question, these might be some examples. Which product is the most profitable at stores in a certain state? Is it more profitable to produce an item in the United States or in Mexico or in Indonesia? Why are costs increasing in the West but decreasing in the East? What is the probability that our audit client will go bankrupt or need to restate its financial statements? We start off with the general question, and then we often reiterate and work through our question until we can figure out what is the data we're going to need to answer that question. So in the second step, now that we've got our question, we now have to master the data. First, we have big questions around four topics. Is the data we want accessible? Is it reliable? Is it accurate, valid, and consistent over time? And how is the data structured? Is it internal to our organization? Are there privacy concerns we have that we got to be careful about? So we have to first kind of work on that and make sure we're addressing each question and understanding if we're not working with perfect data, we have to be careful not to be so certain with our results. Once we have identified the data that we need, there's called the ETL process, which means extract, transform, and load. Extraction means obtaining or retrieving the data from a source. We may use SQL or some type of process to do that. Transformation is about cleaning the data. Maybe we have to make some changes to the data to make it useful. And load is simply getting that data into the data analytics tool that we want to use. Now, believe it or not, when data analysts embark on a data analytics project, research has found that they spend about 50 to 90% of their time on the ETL process. Because as I said before, data sets are often messy. So we have to go through and clean them because we don't want to use bad data for our analysis, right? So, and this is often an iterative process. We clean our data, we notice more issues. We clean it, we notice more issues. Eventually, we get to a point where we think our data is good to use, and we move forward. Now, once our data is clean, we're ready to perform analysis. And the analysis we perform depends on what question we're asking. And data analytics comes in four general categories, and we're going to spend some time on these: descriptive analysis, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive. Now, when we talk about descriptive analytics, we're really just talking about what happened. Data that characterizes, or analyses that characterize, summarizes, and organizes past performance. These tend to be simpler questions. Did we make a profit last year? What was the amount of an average sale? How long have the existing accounts receivable, where our customers owe us money, been past due? Diagnostic questions are a little higher level. Here we want to understand the underlying cause of a phenomenon, or why something happened. In other words, why did advertising expense increase while sales fell? Why did we experience an unfavorable labor rate variance last year? Why did tax expense increase even though net income didn't? So these are things we have to diagnose. Predictive data is analysis performed to provide foresight by identifying patterns in historical data. In other words, looking at our past to better predict our future. So this might be questions like, what is the chance our customer will go bankrupt? What is our expected sales and income next year? Can we predict if our financial statements will be misstated? Will the borrower pay us back the loan we've granted? So a bank might be interested in that. Then we have prescriptive analysis, and this is analysis performed which identifies the best possible options given constraints or changing conditions. In other words, here we're asking, what should we do? So how many sales do we need to break even? How can revenues be maximized if a global supply chain shortage happens? Should the company lease or buy its headquarters office? Should the company make its own products or outsource production to another company? So here again are the four categories of data analytics. And if you look at descriptive and diagnostic analytics have a past orientation, while predictive and prescriptive analytics have more of a future orientation. So again, descriptive analytics are procedures that summarize what happened. Diagnostic, why something happened. Predictive, what will happen. And prescriptive, what should be done. So this chart is moving from the lower left to the upper right, which implies there's a y-axis. You can think about, as we go up, what's changing? And that's value. And the idea is a prescriptive analytic, in other words, an analysis that tells us what should be done, is higher quality or more value to us than one that predicts, or something that tells us why, or one that simply tells us what happened. The chart also implies an x-axis. You can think about what that might be. And that is difficulty. Descriptive analytics tend to be the easiest. It's simply summarizing data that we've captured to provide some information. And as we move from left to right, the difficulty can become more challenging. In other words, a prescriptive analytic, all the way to the right, analysis that tells us what should be done, is more complex than something that tells us simply what happened. So to summarize, what happened, why it happened, what will happen, and what should be done. Now, in the class I teach, we then get into different models on how we can do this. So descriptive analytics tend to be things that people may have learned already in a statistics class. When we get into diagnostic analytics, we're doing things like profiling, clustering, similarity matching, co-occurrence grouping. And you see this today when you go and you buy something online and you say, I'd like to buy something, say, from an online retailer, and then they may say, people who buy this often buy that. And what's going on is data analytics is running in the background to help you make that. When we do predictive analytics, we're doing things like regression, classification, link prediction. And then when we're using prescriptive analytics, we're looking at decision support systems, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. Okay, so after we've done our analysis, we've done one of those or a combination of those processes that we just talked about, it's time to share the story or communicate our findings with our audience. And many times, and hopefully, we're going to get an answer to the question that we began with. But sometimes we won't, because maybe our question was very difficult. But hopefully, we've gathered data to maybe reframe our question and continue the process again. Now, when we talk about share the story, we're talking about just making sure we're getting good communication. So data visualizations could be something as simple as providing tables of data, or they could be something more graphical in nature, like charts, or even a dashboard of a collection of charts. Now, when we share the story, we do a full recap of the AMPS model. In other words, we revisit what our question is. We talk about how we mastered the data. We talk about the different analyses that we performed, and we also share the story. You may be thinking, well, that seems why? Why can't you just share the story? And the reason why is because we want to provide context to our audience. We want to show the audience that we went through a disciplined process. Because let's say we worked on a project and we're going to share it with many executives, and many of those executives might not have even known that this analysis was being done in the first place. By recapping the whole process, we're educating and reassuring, in this case, our executive audience, on that here's the question we're trying to solve. We'll probably explain why it's important. Here's the data we looked at. Here's the quality of that data. Here are the analyses we performed and why, and now here are the results. Okay, and that helps people understand. So in our classes, we talk about how it's not just the answer, it's about sharing the whole story. So again, data visualization is a process of presenting information graphically. The goal is to present relevant information to decision makers. And if you look at this chart, we start off, and if we remember that the end goal is to make a well-informed decision. So to make a well-informed decision, we need knowledge. To develop knowledge, we need information. To develop information, we need data. So this is where the data analytics process began. But as we're beginning that process, this is our goal. So as we design our data visualizations, it's important that we don't focus on what chart looks pretty. It's important that we focus on how are we going to make the most well-informed decision. So it's important that we understand our data and we think about what visualization is most appropriate. And then there's different tools. Some common tools that are out there in the marketplace are Microsoft Excel, Tableau, Microsoft Power BI, and there are many other tools, as you saw from that chart before. And then 3, we want to develop and present the visualization. And again, we're trying to create or reinforce knowledge, so it's important that we choose the right chart. Okay. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea about the data analytics process. The class I teach is working through this process and using it to solve accounting problems or questions, or using it to make accounting better. But if you're interested in data analytics and maybe accounting isn't what you want to focus on, you could use this process for virtually any field. And here at GW, there are numerous courses where you can learn these skills. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you here on campus. If you come by, I'm in Funger 601T, and I'd love to see you. Regardless, though, good luck on all your future endeavors.
Thank you so much, Professor, for that very insightful presentation. I'm sure everyone who was present in the audience today has got a lot of their questions and queries answered. So thank you so much. I would request you to stay around. So since all of you have now heard from the professor and got a better understanding about the subject topic today, we will now be moving ahead and talking a little bit more about the George Washington University School of Business, its programs and offerings. But just before I bring Megan on, I'm going to run my second poll question for tonight, which is going to be coming up shortly on your screen. So for all those who are in the audience and can have a look, my second poll question for this evening is, which specialized master's program are you keen to pursue? And there are a couple of options which we've mentioned for you. So the first one is MS in Applied Finance, MS in Business Analytics, MS in Finance, MS in Information Systems Technology, MS in Interdisciplinary Business Studies, and MS in Project Management. So for everyone who's present in the audience, if you could have a look at your screen, and please select one of the specific choices which are given and let us know which of these options would be the best suited for you and which of these courses would you consider or are really keen on pursuing. So kindly have a look at your screen. Once we announce the result of the poll questions, I would then be requesting Megan from the GWSB team to take us through the various programs and offerings. Everyone in the audience, please do stay around. We will be taking up your questions once Megan is done with her presentation. Please feel free to drop all of your questions in the Q&A chat window, which is there on your screen, so that we can take it up at a later stage. Okay, great. So let us quickly run the results for the poll, and the results for the polls are out with a 41% of students who are looking at MS in Business Analytics, closely followed by MS in Finance and other subjects. So thank you so much for everyone who participated in the polls and let us know which program they're looking at. So without further ado, over to you, Megan, if you could quickly take us through your presentation. And yeah, thank you.
For sure. Thank you so much. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen and get started. All right. Thank you so much for joining this morning or this evening. For us, it's still morning. My name is Megan Vanson. I'm an Associate Director of Recruitment and Admissions here at the GW School of Business. And I'm pleased to be speaking with you today a bit about our programs, our specialized master's programs, our MBA, more about our university, where it's located, our programs, how to apply, etc. So, of course, we are named after George Washington, the first president of the United States of America. He had actually advocated for the establishment of a national university in the nation's capital. And GW was established by a congressional charter back in 1821. So we are well into our third century right now, and we're actually one of just a handful of universities in the United States that have the privilege of being established by such a congressional charter. So, of course, we are located in Washington, D.C. If you've ever been to Washington, D.C. or seen pictures of it, I'm sure you'll recognize some of the highlights here. We have the Washington Monument, the National Mall, and then GW is located over in here. So you can see this is the university's Kogan Plaza. The School of Business is just right over here. So you can see that we are very much centrally located in the heart of Washington, D.C., right by all of the international organizations, government agencies, and we are seeing more and more private industry coming to the D.C. area, more and more consulting firms, et cetera. So I would definitely encourage you to check out the virtual tour on our website and learn a little bit more about where we're situated. And a bit about our rankings. So the Financial Times has actually ranked our international business program #1 in the United States and #1 in the world. I'm sorry, #2 worldwide that's for the MS in International Business program. We also have #1 ranking for percentage of women in our global MBA. So we're very proud of that. Our finance program is ranked #2 in the United States. And of course, we have our global MBA ranked by the Financial Times as #34 in the United States. You can see some further rankings here from US News. We are also very proud of our diversity here at GWSB. In addition to having high gender diversity, we also have very high ethnic racial diversity. We have many international students, and we are very proud of our faculty. As you were able to see just earlier with the lecture, we have some of the best faculty in the country and in the world here at GW. So what programs can you study here? We have 2 full-time MBA formats. That's our global MBA and our accelerated MBA. They can be done as a non-STEM degree, or they can also be STEM designated, depending on the courses that you choose and the track that you choose. All of these specialized master's degrees that we offer are also listed on the screen. So of course, business analytics, which was a popular choice amongst everyone today. The asterisk that you see next to the master's and MBA degrees denotes that it can be or is a STEM designated program. So what that means is that if you are in a program that is not STEM designated, you can, of course, work in the United States for 1 year after graduating from your program. If you do a degree that is STEM designated, you can work in the United States for up to 3 years after completing your program. So business analytics, of course, is STEM designated. For our accountancy program, there are actually 2 tracks. We have our General Master Accountancy, which is not STEM designated, and then we have our Master of Accountancy with a major in Accounting Analytics, which is STEM designated. So there are 2 tracks to that program, as well as with our Interdisciplinary Business Studies degree. That can be done in a non-STEM track or in a STEM track. We also have over 20 graduate certificates. And this is a really unique thing about GW, is the ability to use graduate certificates to make your degree more customizable for your interests. If you are doing a degree where you have at least 12 elective credits, you can use those elective credits to earn a graduate certificate. Graduate certificates are just 12 credits. So for example, if you were to do our MS in Management program, you can use the 12 elective credits in that to earn a graduate certificate in anything from marketing analytics to global management to tourism certificate. So really more ability to customize and diversify your degrees with the certificates. Okay, just some further things that highlight our unique attributes and what makes GWSB the place where you would want to do your business degree. Obviously, our world-class faculty, as you've seen, and our innovative curriculum. There's a strong focus in all of our degrees on technology and analytics. We want to make sure that our students have the most up-to-date skills and that they're studying with the most advanced analytics knowledge, tech knowledge that they need when they're doing their degrees. So coursework in that. There's also a strong focus on experiential learning. There is a lot of group work in our degrees. We also have our very own Office of Global and Experiential Education here in the GW School of Business. And they organize wonderful study abroad and also study elsewhere in the US programs that are both short-term or semester long. For example, we have had programs looking at entrepreneurship in Singapore. We have had programs to Austin, Texas, studying that city's rise as a startup city. So a lot of focus on learning outside of the classroom. And there's always a very international focus here at GW, being in the nation's capital with students coming from all over the world. There is a definite focus on working with global talent and an international business perspective. We, of course, have our dedicated career center, the Fowler Career Center, which only serves GW School of Business students. And we have many different clubs, events, and organizations taking place throughout the year, from our George Talks business events, which are held once a month, where notable alumni and thought leaders are interviewed and they're streamed live on YouTube, to various clubs that you can join, such as the student chapter of the Society for Human Resource Management or the Consulting Club. And we have an extensive and involved alumni network. We have alumni in pretty much every major city throughout the globe. Our alumni are very involved and are always interested in being connected with current students and trying to help in whatever way they can to give them more information about what they're working, help network, connect. And of course, as I mentioned, the flexibility and customizability of our degrees. We have our graduate certificates. We have a wide variety of electives that you can use your elective credits to take. You can also bring up to 6 credits outside of the GW School of Business with approval of your academic advisor. So if there is a course, let's say in the School of Engineering or the Elliott School of International Affairs that you're interested in, you could consider having that course as part of your degree. We do also offer 20+ joint or dual degrees. You have the option to do a dual degree between our MBA and many of our specialized master's degrees. We also offer joint degrees with the MBA and many of the Master of Arts and the Elliott School of International Affairs. And as I mentioned, we have our short-term and long-term exchange programs and global and domestic study away programs. Okay, I want to speak a little bit more about our Fowler Career Center. This is our Career Center here at the School of Business, which serves only School of Business students. So they are very familiar with the career paths that our students take, with the degrees that they're studying for here in the School of Business. There are career counselors there, career consultants, who definitely want to meet with students and are there to help you with your job search, whether that be through interview preparation skills, resume writing, sitting down and talking with you more about your future plans and figuring out how they can connect you with the resources that will most be of assistance to you. So for example, connecting you with alumni who might be working in an industry that you're interested in. They also organize on-campus information sessions, on-campus interviewing, and they, of course, endeavor to open as many employers' doors on your behalf as possible. And as we do have a good deal of international students here in the School of Business, they are, of course, very familiar with the career search for international students and how that might differ from domestic students. And this is just a sample of student landings where students who have graduated from our programs have gone on to work. Again, a huge advantage of our DC location is the career opportunities that exist here. We have, in addition to the government agencies, many international organizations, the World Bank, the IMF, the International Inter-American Development Bank are located literally just a few blocks from our campus. A lot of the major consulting companies, the Big Four, of course, other large consulting groups have presence in the DC area. And we have more and more private industries such as Amazon. Amazon recently opened a large campus just across the river in Arlington, Virginia. Capital One credit card headquarters are in Northern Virginia. So really endless opportunities here. And of course, I mentioned our alumni networks. We have alumni networks all over the world, of course, including in India. So no matter where you find yourself after graduation, you can definitely connect with an alumni network in your city. Okay, a little bit about applying and what the requirements are specifically for international students. So you would fill out our online application. In our online application, you will always upload a copy of your transcript, your letter of your transcript, your statement of purpose, and your resume. And then you would need to enter the name and email address of at least one person who can write a letter of recommendation on your behalf. It is fine to go ahead and submit your application before that letter of recommendation comes in, of course. So online application, enter your recommenders information, upload your resume, statement of purpose, and transcript. For international applicants, we do require an English test score. There are, of course, exceptions. If you have a degree from the US, the UK, Anglophone Canada, Ireland, New Zealand, Australia, etc., you would be exempt. We do accept the TOEFL, the IELTS, Duolingo, and the PTE. And the scores that you see on the screen are our optimal scores. So if you have a 90 to 99 on TOEFL, or a 6 or a 6.5 on IELTS, 110, 115 in Duolingo, you can still be admitted, but it would likely be admission with the condition to take an English class in your first semester, in addition to your regular classes. And we also require a transcript evaluation if your transcript was earned at an institution outside of the United States. We accept a transcript evaluation from any company that's a member of the National Association of Credential Evaluation Services. So you may have heard of WES, ECE, Spantran, Joseph Silney, etc. Any of those are fine. And it is fine to go ahead and submit your application before we get the evaluation. However, your application cannot be rendered complete and moved to review until we have the transcript evaluation, the English score, the letter of recommendation, etc. There is an application fee, but because you have been in this session today, you will not need to worry about that. On the bottom of the screen, you'll see a code. Please go ahead and note that. And when you come to the end of your application, you can just hit Save and Pay, select that you have a fee waiver, and then enter in that fee waiver, and we will get your application manually submitted without the payments. So I will just hold for a couple seconds so you can take note of that. And of course, funding your education. The tuition for our specialized master's programs, tuition for the full program, right now ranges from $59,000 to about $70,000 US dollars. Our master's programs are all 30 to 36 credits long, with the exception of the Master of Science in Finance, which is a 48 credit degree. So that one's a bit longer. For our global MBA, whether the STEM or the non-STEM version, that is a flat rate of about $125,000 US dollars. The global MBA is a 53 credit degree. scholarships are most definitely available. There is nothing separate that you need to do to be considered for a scholarship. You will automatically be considered. If it's decided that you will be admitted at that time, it's also decided whether you'll be admitted with any merit-based funding. And if you are, it will state that on your letter of admission. So when you get your letter of admission, it will be listed as a percentage. So let's say, for example, you get admission with a 20% merit scholarship. That means that each semester you register for, 20% of your tuition for that semester will be covered by the scholarship. We do get many students asking about assistantships. Assistantships are actually not something that would be packaged as part of admission like your scholarships would be. They are posted at the beginning of the semester, and these departments in the School of Business that have an available assistantship position will post that just before the semester starts, and then new incoming students are welcome to apply at that time. And there are, of course, international loan options available. There are several different companies which focus towards loans for international students. You might have heard of Empower, Prodigy, or there's a company that works specifically with African students called 8B. But these companies are all very familiar with GW and our programs, and we have certainly had students secure loans from them. All right, well, that gives just a brief overview of the programs that we offer and all the wonderful things that you find when you come to GWSB, all of the support that you'll receive, a little bit about the details as well about applying and finances. This is our general email address, so please feel free if you have any questions at all. And I would also like to let you know that on June 3rd, Saturday, June 3rd, from 10 to noon Eastern Standard Time, we will be hosting a virtual open house. So we would love for you to register and attend that event. And as soon as I stop the share, I'm going to go ahead and drop a link to that in the box. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Megan. For all those of you who are still here with us, if you all have any questions, this is the time to go and post your questions in the Q&A box so that we can take it up for you. So there are a few questions which have come in. I am going to quickly try and take these up. One major question is, which is from a couple of students, so I am going to sort of club it together, is that if someone who is pursuing an undergrad from a STEM designated degree, can they think about, let's say, for example, computer science or supply chain management? What is the possibility of them, or do they have a chance of doing any particular courses in the field of data analytics or project management?
Megan, do you want me to take it or you want to take it?
You can go ahead.
I mean, yes, you will be able to take those classes. They'll be part of the curriculum often, but there'll be electives that the person will probably have satisfied the prerequisites, no problem, and they'll be able to take those classes.
Great. Thank you so much, Professor. Megan, the next one is for you. I know you have just finished your presentation and you did speak about scholarships and funding, but we have a few questions about scholarships. So if you could quickly just talk a little bit about the scholarship process that you follow at GW and what are the different scholarship options which are available to international students? Sure.
So it is one scholarship package. When we choose to admit a student, at that time, we will also decide whether we're going to admit with the scholarship funding. Our scholarships for the School of Business pull from a variety of different sources into one scholarship. Scholarship decisions are made by our Assistant Dean of Admissions. And so if you receive funding, when you get your letter of admission, it will state, for example, you've received a 20% School of Business scholarship, or 30% or 15% or whatever it is that you're receiving. But all of the scholarship funding will be in that amount. And then what that means is each semester that you're registered for, whatever percentage scholarship you receive, that percentage of your tuition will be covered by it.
Okay, great. Just a quick follow-up question, Megan, about that.
Mhm.
A couple of students want to know whether a 3 years business degree from India is acceptable to get an admission into into the master's programs which are offered by GWS.
Yes, excellent question. So we are very familiar with 3-year Indian degrees. We certainly do have applicants applying with 3-year degrees. As I mentioned earlier, it is a requirement that you provide an international transcript evaluation. If your international transcript evaluation equates your Indian degree to a US bachelor's degree, that's fine. You're good to go.
Okay. The next question, Professor, is for you. Suppose a student has moderate knowledge about data, but still wants to use that knowledge and implement it specifically in the field of finance. What would be your advice for them? How would they sort of ensure that whatever they are doing is right? How would that sort of ensure in getting the right kind of success to this?
They would be able to take classes without having to be a data analytics expert. For example, I'm an accounting professor who's a CPA. And while I've learned data analytics, I'm not a data analytics expert. So the idea is we use tools that were designed to do complex statistical analysis for people who are users of tools versus tool makers. So if you want to develop skills in data analytics, you can take classes often within the disciplines taught by finance or accounting professors. And if you want to go deeper, you can take classes in our Department of Decision Sciences, where we go deeper into the more technical aspects. So you can have either a range of, I want to be able to learn it like a practitioner, or you can learn it like a technician, either way.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor. That was insightful. Megan, the next question is for you. And we have this question very often, but students are always ever so curious about whether a GMAT or a GRE score is required for the master's, for admissions to any of the master's programs which are offered by GWSB, and what is the average requirement that you would consider for the same?
Sure. So GRE and GMAT is actually not required right now to apply to our master's programs. It's optional. If you have taken the exam and you have a score that you're very pleased with, please do share that with us. But it is certainly not a requirement, and it would not harm you in any way if you were to apply to one of our master's degrees and not submit one.
Thank you. Professor, the next question is for you. A few students want to really know what is the difference between a master's in applied finance versus a master's in finance, and which one, according to you, would have the upper hand, so to say?
I saw that question, and I don't have an exact answer in terms of, and I would not say one is better than the other, because to me, each program is going to be excellent on its own. And, you know, when universities, top-notch universities put together programs, they're focused on that program being excellent, period, right? So then it's really a personal choice. In other words, do you want to understand and learn techniques about how maybe mathematical approaches and finances are being used in the maybe practical sense, then maybe applied's better. If you're more interested in developing theory, right, or maybe more of a theoretical construct, then maybe the master's in finance itself is better. So it's really what you want to do with your degree that's going to drive which one's better.
I was just going to add that the Master of Science in Applied Finance is a more condensed degree. It's 30 credits, whereas the Master of Science in Finance is 48. So it's a shorter time frame.
Okay, thank you. Megan, the next one is for you. One of the students wants to know, does GWSB offer any programs related to agriculture?
We do not, unfortunately. You could certainly, if you're very interested in agriculture, you could certainly, I'm assuming, use that as a case study if you were studying for one of our other degrees, but we do not offer anything specifically focused on agriculture.
Okay. And another quick question, Megan, for you itself is there any assistance in applying for visas during the admission process for the students from the university's end?
Yes, there is. So once a student is admitted, they then need to put down the $2,000 deposit, which will go towards their first semester's tuition. But once the deposit has been paid, the student will be contacted by our Global and Exterior Education office here, and they will assist them with gathering the necessary paperwork that they need for the Form I-20. So they will let them know what it is that they need to submit. The student can ask any questions. And once they have the paperwork that's needed, that will then go to our International Services Office. The International Services Office will actually create the I-20 and then send it to the student so that they can use it to apply for their visa.
Okay, great. We have a question from one of our students in Ghana, and they wish to know that a student who's pursuing an engineering degree for their undergraduation, what are their chances? Can they apply for an MBA program?
Yes, certainly. There is no a requirement, for example, I think for the MBA or for most of our specialized masters, that you must have your undergraduate degree in that field. We definitely do see students with engineering degrees applying for our programs. That's certainly fine. One thing to keep in mind is that for the global MBA, it is a requirement that you have a few years of work experience post-bachelor's before you apply. Whereas for the specialized masters, it is possible to apply straight from your undergrad.
Okay, so I'm going to take one last question for this evening. There is a student who says, I have a bachelor's in data analytics and want to pursue a master's in finance, specifically speaking CFA. What would your advice be, and how will the CFA sort of help me in gaining a master's admission? Would that be like a bonus point on my CV? How exactly is this going to sort of assist them in the long run?
Yeah, so data analytics undergrad with finance master's is a powerful combination. So kudos to that. CFA is a designation that shows mastery of finance concepts. So it's going to show that the student has learned. So the way I look at it, I think the person said, I look at it as maybe like a bonus. It's not like getting a degree, a CFA, but it confirms, it adds more evidence of knowledge. And so it's like a bonus. So if you're looking at two applicants, one person took the initiative to get a CFA, one person did not. The recruiter is probably going to favor the one that pursued the CFA.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Professor. Thank you so much, Megan. Thank you all. I know there were a few questions which are still there, but we are really short on time right now. In the meantime, in the chat box window, we have put the email addresses where you could visit the website or write to the admissions team at GWSB. We have also given you the waiver code if you are planning to apply, as well as the link to check this video on our YouTube channel, as well as the link for the open house for GWSB, which is going to be held on the 3rd of June. So while I have all of you, and if you are curious and want to know more about cloud computing and how it is revolutionizing the digital world, we have another masterclass from GWSB itself tomorrow at the same time. I would request all of you to kindly register and join us in for that as well. You have been a wonderful audience so far. Once again, thank you so much, Professor, for joining us this evening, this morning in certain cases, and taking us through the wonderful presentation and answering all of the questions. I'm sure the students have found it very, very insightful. Thank you to Megan as well for taking out the time and giving us a brief walkthrough about GWSB and answering our questions. Thank you, all of you in the audience once again. I look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow for another very, very exciting masterclass. So do register and tune in, and have a nice day, everyone. Bye-bye.